we'll do this next row together, and then we'll just come back at the end to finish it off. But every row after this one is going to be the same. So we're going to chain 2, just like we did on the rest of the rows. And like the rest of the rows, we're going to go wrap around and go back into that same one that we chained up from and do a double crochet. So we're going to bring it through, wrap, bring through 2, wrap, bring through 2. Now from here, we're just going to do 1 double crochet all the way around the entire thing until that last one. We're going to skip the last one as usual, do our slip stitch, go up to the next row and do the same thing that we're doing right now. So if you need additional help in the following rows, just go ahead and rewind to this point and it will be the same, I promise. So we're going to go 1 double crochet in each one. You should be a pro at the double crochets by now. So I'm not going to give you the total tutorial, but just 1 in each stitch. So remember that first one, it's going to be kind of like 2. You're going to have this chain stitch and then the double crochet in that first one. That's the only exception, and that'll be the same for every single row. Every other one will have just 1 in each one. And the reason that we do 2 here is because we're skipping this last one. If you want to not do the 2 here and you want to do a double crochet in the last one, that's fine. It'll make your seam a little bit more noticeable, but if it is less confusing to you or you just like the look better, that's totally fine. But that is the reason that we do the 2 here. It's to make up for that skipped stitch at the end there. So we're going to wrap around and just go into each one 1 time as we go around. I need to detangle my yarn a little bit. There we go. Okay, and I'm going to keep going. Just 1 double crochet in each one. It's okay if it takes you a little bit longer. If you need to pause the video, go ahead and do that. And we're just going to keep going around. 1 in each stitch. 1 double crochet all the way around. And this is when you'll start to see the hat turn. The reason that we did the 2 double crochets in some stitches on the earlier browns is to make the hat spread out. If we didn't do that, we'd be making a hat that might fit a Barbie if we're lucky, because there would be no space in it. There'd be nothing to space it out. So when you wear a winter hat, the top is maybe not totally flat, but it's like more spread out than the rest of it. You need to create that. It doesn't just do it on its own. So those extra double crochets are how we create that space. But obviously we need that space to end, or else we're going to end up with a floor mat or a pot holder. And that's not what we want. So now we're just going to do the 1 double crochet in each one. And you can see on mine, it's already starting to kind of turn. And it'll continue to do that. It'll just make it go kind of down like a beanie, like it should be. And you'll see that as you kind of get into the rows that are further down, you'll see it start to do that. And we're just going to keep going around. I'm about halfway there now. So again, if you need to pause the video, go ahead and do that. And we'll meet up later, and I'll come back to remember, after this row, it's going to be the same every time. So I will come back at the end for my last row, and we'll do that together so that you can see how to fasten it off and how to finish your hat. I need a little bit more yarn here. We're also going to sew that top part up so that you don't have a hole in the top of your hat. So we'll do that all at the end. And by sewing, I mean we're going to sew it with yarn, so you don't have to worry about getting some thread out. You can use your crochet hook, or they also make yarn needles. I use yarn needles usually. I'll use a crochet hook with you guys because I don't know if you've all got yarn needles. If you're going to find yourself doing more hats, I find that the yarn needles are just easier to work with. It makes it look a little bit neater and nicer. If you think you're only going to do a couple hats here and there, I probably wouldn't go invest in them. They're not very much. They're about $4 for a packet of 3 or 4 of them. but I probably wouldn't invest in them for just a couple of hats. So, okay, so I'm at the end. I'm skipping that last stitch right there. Follow my double crochet, or I'm sorry, follow my chain stitches up to where it meets the double crochet. I'm going to go in and I'm going to do my slip stitch, and I'm going to chain 2, and then I'm going to start my next row, and I'm going to remember to do a double crochet in the bottom of where I just did that chain stitch from. I'm going to keep doing that several times. I think one time I counted 19 rows. For me, I'm more about how long it measures. Some crocheters really like to count the rows. I like to count how long it is, because if I've crocheted a little bit tighter one time, how many rows I have or how many rounds I have doesn't really matter if the hat's still too small or if it's way too big. So I like to do it by length, but I do think one time I measured or I counted 19 rounds for a hat. So, and that's starting with here, so you've already done quite a few. So let's count how many we have now. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6, you're a third of the way there basically. We're just going to keep doing the same thing all the way around until you're satisfied with the length. You can go ahead and try it on. Although it'll feel funny, I recommend leaving your hook in while you try on. That way your work doesn't unravel while it's on your head. And we'll meet back here at the end. Okay, so I've gotten through, I'm a couple of stitches from the end of mine. It took me 20 rounds for this one to make it about the right size for my head. So it may be 18 for you, it might be 20. You just kind of have to try it out and see what works for you. I'm going to do the last couple of stitches with you, and then I'm going to show you how to tie it off and cut your string at the end so that you don't have to walk around with a piece of yarn hanging off your head. So we're going to just continue double crocheting 1 in each stitch for the last few stitches here. I am almost done with my hat. And just like the rest of them, I'm going to skip my last stitch, which is right here, this purple one at the bottom. I'm going to follow that up, and I'm going to go into the top of my chain stitch and do a slip stitch into there like I did for the other rows. And then I should explain what I'm doing here. And then I'm going to wrap around and go as if I'm going to chain, but I just pull it real tight, and I'm not going to chain again. What I'm going to do now is take my scissors and cut the end off. So now I've got my little loop here with my end. I'm just going to pull it through. It's just going to make it a knot. And from there I can weave this in. So I'm just going to start, I'm going to teach you how to do it using your crochet hook. If you decide to go get a yarn needle, it's just like sewing. It's pretty easy. You just go back and forth. So I'm just going to go into these and just weave it so that it's not sticking out. Now I'm going to weave it this way. I'm going to go back to the other side, go into the next one, and I'm going to weave it this way. And then I'm going to go back towards where it came from, just so that I've got it going both ways. That way it's less likely to come out and come loose. And I'm just going to do this as many times as I feel like I need to make me comfortable with the fact that this little end piece is secure. And then if there's anything left, I can go ahead and cut it off. So I'm going to go like this. I'm going to go just a couple more times if I can, and then I'm going to cut it off. I'm going to go back in here and just weave it in. And I got this little piece left here, but I feel like it's pretty securely woven in there, and you shouldn't really be able to see it too much. You can see a little bit of blue there. If you have a solid color hat, you shouldn't be able to see it at all, unless you're really looking for it. Mine, you can see it a little bit, but even then, I think unless you're really looking for it, you're not going to see it. So you can go ahead and just cut off your end then. Make sure you don't cut the actual hat. And this little piece you can just throw away. So the bottom of your hat is done now. And now you're going to need to do the top part of your hat. So you should have a string from when you started. that's kind of hanging. It'll either be on the outside or on the inside of your hat. Mine's on the inside right now. So I'm going to flip it inside out. If yours was already on the outside, that means your hat is inside out. That is okay. It's very easy to flip. But you're going to want the side that looks like this is the inside. The side that looks like this is the outside. If you'd like the other side better, it's fine to use that as the outside. And we're going to do kind of the same thing as we did before, but on the inside. The only difference is we're going to try to close up this hole if we can while we're weaving. So again, no special rhyme or reason to how you do it, but I'm going to go under my initial double crochets, if I can get my needle in there, and try to weave it through there and see if I can close it up that way. So I'm going to go on this side of the circle, and then I'm going to go over to the other side of the circle and see if maybe I can weave it in there. Pull it real tight. And then I'm going to go back over here. And pull it through. And back over here. And I'm going to pull it through. This is the same as the bottom if you decide to go get a yarn needle. This is going to be a much easier process. But if you only plan to make a few hats, you're just going to try this out. There's really no need to go and invest in a yarn needle. You can see it's pretty hard to see the hole already. But we want to make sure that this stays secure. So for this one, a little different than the outside, because the outside you're going to see. For this one, I'm actually going to tie a knot. So I'm going to start my knot by just wrapping this around. I'm going to make sure I keep a loop out. So I've got my little loop here, and I'm just going to tie a knot here to keep it that way so that it doesn't come undone. I might go in again, see if I can get it in one more time. I'm not sure if I can. It might already be too tight. Yep, it's already too tight. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this off here. It's okay to have a little end sticking out on this one because it's on the inside and no one's going to see it but you. Turn your hat back the other way and you are done. I'll add a picture of me and my hat so that you can see it kind of complete to the end of the video. So that's it. If you have questions, please call me, text me, FaceTime me, Skype me, email me, whatever. I'm happy to answer your questions. Okay, bye.